The sound of combat boots striking the hotel's marble floor was sharp, like a countdown. I glanced down at the medals on my chest. The top one, the first-class Medal of Honor, caught the light from the crystal chandelier, casting a cold gleam. 3 years. I spent them in the borderland dust, chewing on hardtack, sleeping in trenches, listening to bullets whiz past my ears. Now I was finally back, carrying a collection of scars and a faded uniform washed so many times the color had bled out of it, and a heart that couldn't wait to see my mother. Lin Jing, slow down. Her voice came from behind, laced with laughter. Your mom can't keep up. I stopped dead in my tracks. Today she was wearing a dark red wool coat, the one she'd bought specially for her 50th birthday. A silver brooch was pinned to her lapel, the birthday gift I'd sent her with my first military allowance. She still kept it. Her hair had turned a lot grayer than 3 years ago, but the smile on her face was brighter than any video call I remembered. Ma, let me help you. No, I'm not that old yet. She looked up at the hotel's gilded dome, a flicker of barely suppressed wonder in her eyes. This place was the city's top Chinese restaurant, Guanlan Pavilion. I'd booked a private room through a former comrade before I came back. I wanted my mom to have a birthday unlike any she'd ever had before. Back in our county town, she'd always just boil herself a bowl of noodles on her birthday, add a fried egg, too frugal to even buy a cake. Not this year. I was back, with my honors and the resettlement money the army had given me. I wanted her to know her son hadn't suffered all those years for nothing. Xiao Cheng, this place must cost a fortune. Ma, don't worry. Your son's got it made now. Today's your big day. Don't think about money. She pressed her lips together and smiled, deep crow's feet crinkling at the corners of her eyes, her gaze full of the tenderness I knew best. We walked through the lobby and turned into the corridor leading to the private rooms. Dark walnut partitions with carved patterns softened the warm yellow light, making it gentle and quiet. The air was thick with the aroma of chicken and fish maw soup. A waiter led us to the door of Pine Crane Hall. The door was half open, warm light spilling out. I reached out to push it open. Suddenly, a sharp female voice rang out from behind. Stop right there. Who told you to touch that door? I turned around. A woman in a Chanel suit, her makeup impeccable, was striding toward us on 10-centimeter heels. A name badge on her chest read, Senior Administrative Assistant Grimes. 2 hotel staff members followed her, looking uneasy. Miss Grimes, this gentleman did book this room in advance. Booked? Grimes let out a cold laugh. Her eyes swept over me, and when they landed on my uniform, contempt practically dripped from her lips. Miss Sterling needs this room today to entertain an important guest. That was communicated to headquarters yesterday. The system shows. The system is dead. People are alive. She turned to me, chin raised high. Miss Sterling is commandeering this room. Find somewhere else. My mom froze for a second, instinctively tightening her grip on my arm. Xiao Cheng, maybe we should. Ma, don't worry. I patted her hand and looked the woman straight in the eye. I paid a deposit and booked this room 3 days ago. First come, first served. Grimes snorted. First come, first served? You're talking to me about first come, first served? She jabbed a finger with scarlet nail polish at my medals. These things might look impressive, but they don't mean squat here. Do you know who Miss Sterling is? The eldest daughter of the Sterling family. The entire pioneer group belongs to her family. You're just a soldier. Don't you know your place? I held back. Today was my mom's birthday. I wasn't going to let anything ruin it. Please check the booking records, I said, looking at the manager. But Grimes stepped forward, pushed open the door of Pine Crane Hall, and shouted inside. Clear this table. Replace everything with Miss Sterling's bone china set. She turned back and walked toward us, raising her hand as if to shove aside something annoying, and pushed my mother's shoulder. I saw it. I saw her palm press against the dark red wool coat on my mother's shoulder. I saw my mom stumble, her body lurching backward. I saw her graying hair trace an arc in the warm yellow light. Ma! I grabbed my mother's arm and pulled her into my arms. She was trembling all over, clutching my sleeve. Her lips moved a few times before she managed to say, Xiao Cheng, I'm fine. Just lost my balance. But her eyes were red. She was a woman who never argued with anyone. But her eyes were red. My hands were shaking as I held her shoulders. Not from fear. From anger. 3 years on the battlefield. I'd killed enemies. Carried my comrades' bodies 30 miles through the mountains. I thought I'd forged my emotions into iron. But that iron shell had been shattered by a single hand with scarlet nail polish. I gently helped my mom to stand against the wall, then turned around. Grimes stood there with her arms crossed. "What are you standing there for? Get out of here." I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. "Hello? This is Lin Jing. Code 0713. Guanlan Pavilion. Outside Pine Crane Hall. Someone laid hands on my mother. Dispatch special duty." There was a 1-second silence on the other end. "Copy." The call ended. The air in the corridor felt like it had been sucked out. Grimes's smirk froze on her face. She stared at my phone, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Who did you just call?" I ignored her and checked on my mom. She saw me coming and quickly dropped her hand from her shoulder. "I'm really fine. Ma, just stand here. Don't worry about anything. Leave it to me." She opened her mouth, saw something in my eyes, and the hesitation melted away. She reached up and buttoned a loose button on my collar. "All right. I won't move." Grimes was frantically typing on her phone, probably tipping off her precious Miss Sterling. From the end of the corridor came the noise of the other private room, people shouting toasts, talking loudly, a stark contrast to the tense silence here. The manager was sweating buckets. "How about I give you a bigger room? All expenses on the house." "No. I want this one." The manager's face fell. He pulled out a handkerchief and kept wiping his forehead. Grimes put her phone down and lifted her head, that fake arrogance back in place. "I just messaged Miss Sterling. She's on her way. You have a chance to back down gracefully now. You won't get another one." As she spoke, her eyes drifted to my medals again. I didn't respond. About 4 minutes had passed since I made that call. By the Special Duty Department's standard response protocol, the first team should already be on the way. Suddenly, the sharp click of high-heeled boots echoed from the other end of the corridor. Grimes straightened up like a switch had been flipped. Stepping aside with a sycophantic smile, a woman emerged from around the corner. A dark green velvet gown trailed behind her. Diamond drop earrings sparkled at her ears. Her delicate features were flawless. Her expression carried an inborn superiority, the kind that couldn't be faked, the kind that came from being raised on endless resources. This was Isolde Sterling, the only daughter of the Sterling family, the jewel of Reginald Sterling, chairman of Pioneer Group. She walked over, her gaze passing over me like she was inspecting an object. "Grimes, what's going on?" Grimes immediately leaned in and whispered something. Isolde listened, then looked up at me. A faint smile curled at the corner of her lips, the kind of easy condescension the powerful showed to the powerless. "I do need this room. I'll triple what you paid for it. The top-floor lounge at Guanlan Pavilion is yours for the day. All charges on my tab." It was generous, gracious, like she was offering me the greatest mercy she could afford. But she missed one thing. "Let's put the room aside. Your assistant pushed my mother. How do we settle that?" Isolde's eyebrow lifted. She glanced at Grimes. Grimes jumped in. "I didn't push her. I just lightly touched her to move her aside." "You touched my mother. It's her 50th birthday. She put on a new dress to come here for a meal. After shoving her, you didn't even apologize. You told us to get lost. You think that's just gonna slide?" The temperature in the corridor seemed to drop a few degrees. The casual smile faded from Isolde's face. She studied me again, from my face to my shoulder insignia, finally settling on the row of medals. "Are you active duty?" "Retired. Just recently." Isolde was silent for a moment, then turned to Grimes. "Apologize." Grimes's face went pale, then flushed. "Miss Sterling," I said, "apologize." Grimes gritted her teeth and gave my mother an extremely perfunctory nod. "Sorry. That's enough. Right? That's enough. Right? 3 words with zero remorse. Just impatience and resentment at being forced. I glanced at my phone. The screen lit up. A new message. 2 words. In position. From outside the corridor came the sound of synchronized footsteps. Heavy. Urgent. Professional. Like an iron wall advancing from a distance. 7 people in black tactical gear jogged in, forming a line. The leader, a man with a square face, stopped in front of me, snapped to attention, and saluted. His movements were clean and precise. "Captain Lin, Special Duty Team 3. All present. Awaiting orders." Everyone in the corridor was frozen in place. The manager's handkerchief fell to the floor, unnoticed. Grimes's face went from pale to white, and in Isolde Sterling's eyes, those eyes that always held that superior calm, panic finally flickered. I returned the salute. then pointed at Grimes. Arrest her for assault on the family member of a serviceman. The square-faced man didn't hesitate. He gestured, and 2 team members stepped forward, flanking Grimes and taking her arms, fast as hawks striking prey. Clean, precise. Grimes let out a short scream, struggling wildly, her high heels scraping against the marble floor. A button from her Chanel jacket popped off, hit the wall, and rolled away. "What are you doing? Let me go! Miss Sterling, say something!" Isolde's face had drained of all color. She stepped forward. "Wait, do you have an arrest warrant?" The square-faced man pulled a badge from an inside pocket of his tactical vest and held it up. Isolde leaned in to look, and her pupils contracted sharply. Special Duty Department. Directly under the capital's high command. On-site authority supersedes all local law enforcement. Mr. Lin Zheng's identity and emergency code are registered at the highest priority level in the system. Any physical attack on him or his immediate family constitutes a first-degree crime of endangering a serviceman. Miss Grimes, you are under lawful arrest. Grimes's struggles went limp. She sagged, almost collapsing. First degree. What? I've never even heard of it. Minimum sentence. Life imprisonment. The square-faced man replied calmly. The corridor was so quiet you could hear the hum of the central air conditioning. Grimes stopped moving entirely. Her eyes were wide, the last trace of color draining from her pupils. She opened her mouth, but only a hoarse rasp came out. I turned to look at my mom. She was standing against the wall, her hands clenched together, knuckles white. Her lips were trembling, but she hadn't backed away. I walked over and took her hand. It was cold. "Ma, scared?" She swallowed. "No. I know you have your reasons. Just that one sentence. No questions. No blame." My nose stung. In 3 years on the border, I'd taken every wound without ever shedding a tear. But that single no from my mother hit the softest part of my heart like a hammer. They were dragging Grimes away. As she passed Isolde, she screamed, "Miss, save me! Tell the chairman." Isolde didn't look at her. Her full attention was on me. She stood in the middle of the corridor, her green velvet gown pooling on the marble floor. Her hands hung at her sides. Her fingertips were trembling. She stared at me for a long time, then spoke in a very low voice. "Who are you? Really?" I let go of my mother's hand and stepped forward until I was less than a meter from her. "I'm Lin Jing. My mother turned 50 today. I booked this room to celebrate. Your assistant shoved my mother to take it. What do you think should be done about it?" Isolde's eyelashes fluttered. She glanced at the door of Pine Crane Hall, then back at me. I didn't know Grimes physically touched her. She insulted me first, told me a soldier should know his place. Then she pushed my mom. My mother put on a new dress, came here happy to have a meal, and before she even got through the door, she was told to get lost. To you, it's just a room. To her, it was a moment she'd been waiting 3 years for. Isolde opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked down and pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed. "Dad, something's happened." That was all she said before falling silent. Tears spilled from her eyes, streaming down that flawlessly beautiful face. She didn't wipe them away. After more than 10 seconds, she hung up and looked at me, her voice hoarse. "My father is on his way." I stared at the tear tracks on her face, feeling no sympathy at all. If I hadn't been here today, if I didn't have that code, if I were just an ordinary discharged soldier, what would have happened to my mother after being shoved? Thrown out by security? Put on a blacklist? Not even an apology? I'd seen too much of this. You fight to protect the country, and when you come back, the reality is, the people you gave your life to protect can be trampled into the dirt by someone else's arrogance and power at any moment, the square-faced man said. The surveillance footage has been retrieved and saved. I nodded. Then I took my mother's arm. "Ma, just a little longer. After this is handled, I'll have dinner with you." But my mom did something I never expected. She pulled a tissue from her bag, walked over to Isolde, and handed it to her. "Miss, don't cry. My son can be a bit fierce, but he won't really hurt you." Isolde froze, staring at the tissue like it was something she'd never seen before. She took it and clutched it in her hand, lowering her head. Her shoulders gave a tiny shake. I looked at my mother, and the fire in my chest was gently smothered by something soft. My mother had never argued with anyone in her life. Even when she was wrong, she'd just smile and say, "I'm fine." That tissue she handed out was worth more than all the power I could summon. It burned hotter in my heart. The elevator at the end of the corridor chimed. A middle-aged man in a custom dark gray suit strode out, his steps quick and disordered, his face well-preserved but as white as a sheet. Reginald Sterling had arrived. Every step Reginald took carried the careful calculation of a businessman. But the rhythm of his pace betrayed his real emotion. He was rattled. Completely rattled. First, he scanned his daughter's still-damp tracks. Then his gaze moved past her to me, and then to the 7 black-clad tactical team members. His eyes, seasoned by countless storms in the business world, contracted sharply. He recognized the power behind that uniform. Dad. Reginald raised a hand to silence her. He took a deep breath and walked toward me. Each step was deliberately steady, but the fine layer of sweat on his forehead gave him away. Hello, sir. I'm Reginald Sterling, chairman of Pioneer Group. I've just been briefed on today's incident. I am profoundly sorry. There has been a serious failure on my team's part, causing great distress to you and your mother. On behalf of the Sterling family, I offer my sincere apology. He made himself as small as possible, a chairman worth tens of billions, bowing and apologizing in public. Anyone else would have been flattered, but I wasn't buying it. A bow in the business world is just like a bullet on the battlefield, a manufactured weapon. I didn't take his outstretched hand. Grimes has already been taken away. She will be held fully accountable. We will not cover for her. As for the loss to your mother, we are prepared to provide full compensation, including damages for emotional distress. I don't want money. Reginald's words caught in his throat. A brief crack appeared in his smile. He quickly turned to my mother, his tone even milder. Ma'am, please give me a chance to make it up. On behalf of Pioneer Group, I would like to host a more elaborate birthday banquet for you. My mother glanced at me, asking what to do. I pressed her shoulder to reassure her. Mr. Sterling, the legal aspect has been settled. What I want to discuss now is your daughter. A vein pulsed in Reginald's temple. I turned to look at Isolde, who had been silent. From the moment you walked into this hotel until now, you haven't said a proper apology to my mother. Your compensation plan didn't include the words, I'm sorry. You think this has nothing to do with you? Grimes works for you. She was so arrogant today because she knew who was backing her. You know that better than I do. Isolde's shoulders tensed. Tears still clung to her eyelashes, but her jaw was set in a stubborn line. I didn't know she would lay hands on anyone. Now you do. So what? Isolde bit her lower lip, saying nothing. Reginald, frantic, grabbed his daughter and pulled her forward. I say, apologize. Apologize to this lady. Tears welled up in Isolde's eyes again. She looked at my mother, then at me, and finally spoke, her voice rough and soft. I'm sorry. What happened today was my people's fault. I'm sorry. She lowered her head, like a humbled peacock. She was scared. She'd probably never been through anything like this in her life. Someone close to her arrested on the spot. Her father groveling in front of others. But the apology came too late. If not for my phone call, those words I'm sorry would never have been spoken. I accept your apology, but I can't decide for my mom whether she accepts it or not. Today you had her pushed. You say you didn't know, but while you didn't know, there were countless my moms, being pushed by people like you. The only difference is that their sons don't have my ability. Isolde's head snapped up. Anger, shame, resentment, and something I couldn't name swirled in her eyes. Reginald's face had completely changed. He realized that I don't want money meant there was no way to buy his way out of this. The young man in the worn-out military uniform standing in front of him had enough backbone and power to take this all the way. Sir, Reginald lowered his voice. A word in private. Give me some leeway. Name any condition. I'll agree without hesitation. I looked at the sweat on his forehead and the genuine fear in his eyes. I knew exactly what he was afraid of. He was afraid of the force behind my phone call really coming down and looking into his affairs. Someone with that much wealth usually has something dirty beneath the surface. All right. A word in private. At a quiet spot around the corner of the corridor, Reginald turned to face me. Name it. 2 conditions. First, Grimes is handled according to the law. Don't interfere with the judicial process. Second, send Isolde to live in the countryside for 6 months. Not a vacation. I mean really live in a village, cook for herself, wash her own clothes, handle all the daily chores. Let her learn how ordinary people live. Reginald's face went stiff, a gray pallor spreading under the skin. This is the greatest leniency I can offer. Your daughter needs to understand that shoving a 50-year-old mother over a private room, to her it's a trivial matter. But to that mother, it's a lifetime of dignity being trampled. If she wants to learn respect, she needs to learn how to live first. Reginald closed his eyes. His finely tuned mind ran through a few seconds of rapid calculation. When he opened his eyes again, his voice was like sandpaper on wood. I agree. After uttering those 3 words, Reginald leaned against the wall and took a few seconds to recover. I turned and walked back to the corridor. Isolde saw me coming back. Her lips moved, then she held back, looking down at her boot tips. My mother hurried over and grabbed my arm. Xiao Cheng, don't go too far. I really didn't get hurt. I know what I'm doing. Just stand over here. I stood in front of Isolde again. Your father has agreed to the settlement. First, Grimes will go through the legal process. Second, you will live in the countryside for 6 months, build your own fires, draw your own water, wash your own clothes, live like ordinary people. Isolde's pupils dilated. Her mouth hung open for 3 seconds without a sound. Then her face went from white to red, then from red back to white. She started shaking violently. What? The countryside? 6 months? Who do you think you are to? Who am I? I'm the one standing here today. The one whose mother your people shoved. You think this was an accident? The way your assistant behaves when you're not around, you never saw it? You didn't care. Didn't stop it. Because you thought it was normal. You've been up on your high horse too long. It's time you came down to ground level. Isolde's tears spilled over again. This time, she didn't bother to hold back. They fell like pearls from a broken necklace, splashing onto her green velvet gown. Everyone in the corridor watched in silence. I didn't soften, but my mother's hand landed on my arm again. She walked over to Isolde, reached up, and gently wiped the tears from her face with her thumb. Miss, don't be scared. The countryside isn't some monster. My home is in Qinghe village, up against the mountain. If you don't feel comfortable there, come find me. I'll make you a meal. Isolde stared at her, tears still flowing, but she stopped trembling. My name is Chen Guifang. You can call me Aunt Chen if you like. Stop crying. A girl's face doesn't look nice all blotchy. Isolde's lips quivered for a long time before she managed to choke out. Aunt Chen. My mother nodded, then turned and walked back to me. Xiao Cheng, just send her to the village. Whether she gets used to it or not is up to her. Don't be too hard on her anymore. I haven't had dinner yet, and I'm really hungry. The last sentence had a hint of childishness in it, just like when I was a kid, saying Ma, I'm hungry every day when she got home from work. My eyes suddenly stung. All right, Ma, let's eat. I turned to the square-faced man. Process Grimes according to procedure. Give her the sentence she deserves. The settlement terms are voluntary and agreed by both parties. The Sterling family won't object. Right. Reginald walked over and nodded. No objections. Dismissed. The sound of 7 pairs of combat boots faded away, disappearing into the elevator. The corridor fell silent. The hotel manager crawled out from some corner. Sir, the Pine Crane Hall. It's my booked room. I'm going in to eat. The manager nodded frantically, pushed the door open, and began directing the staff to set it up. The warm yellow light came back on. The aroma of chicken and fish maw soup drifted out. My mother stood at the doorway and peered in. Xiao Cheng, this room is huge. I reached out and held the doorframe. Ma, you go first. She stepped into Pine Crane Hall. The warm light fell on her dark red wool coat, making the silver brooch sparkle. She turned around and looked at me. Her smile spread from the corners of her eyes to the corners of her lips. Xiao Cheng, I saw everything you did today. You didn't bring shame to our family. I'm proud of you. I stood there, my chest aching as if I'd been hit. 3 years ago, when I received my first-class Medal of Honor, she was crying so hard she couldn't speak on the video call. But today, she said it with her own mouth. I'm proud of you. I walked over and hugged her. She smelled of laundry detergent. Happy birthday, Ma. 12 dishes were brought in one after another. My mother sat at the head of the table, looking at the long-life noodles, not picking up her chopsticks for a long time. Ma, eat while it's hot. She lowered her head and took a bite. She chewed, swallowed, and suddenly laughed. When you were little, every time I made noodles for my birthday, you'd squat by the stove, waiting. You'd snatch the first bite, burn your mouth, suck in air, but you wouldn't let go. I was greedy back then. Your noodles taste better than any restaurant. Now I can't make them anymore. You'll have to make them for me. She finished the whole bowl. Not a drop of soup left. When she put down her chopsticks, she said, Xiao Cheng, that girl, are you really gonna make her stay in the countryside for 6 months? It's been settled. Can't change it. I know. She's been spoiled. You saw how she cried, like that stray kitten next door when it got thrown out. I'm not speaking for her. I just think you've given her the lesson. Don't push too far. You taught me that saying, don't finish off a cornered enemy. Don't corner a desperate enemy. That's the one. Leave some leeway for future encounters. I was silent for a moment, then nodded. That meal lasted almost 2 hours. My mother tasted every dish, offering commentaries on everything from the tenderness of the steamed grouper to the heat of the braised goose feet. She spoke with great authority. I knew she'd never eaten this kind of food more than a few times, but she didn't want to seem out of place, so she found something to say about each dish in her own way. I watched her pretending to be sophisticated, and my heart ached even as it warmed. When it came time to pay, the manager refused to take my money. I threw down a stack of cash and walked away. He chased me to the elevator, but I didn't look back. Stepping out of Guanlan Pavilion, the early summer night breeze hit my face. My mother wrapped her coat tighter and looked up at the lights on the building's facade. It's nice here, but I still think our little courtyard is better. Then let's go home. That night, we got home almost at 10. The old house was just as it had always been, gray tiles, white walls, the locust tree in front lush and full. My mother made 2 cups of tea, and we sat in the main room talking until midnight. She asked about the army. I only told her about the non-combat stuff, how hard the training was, how grueling the long marches were, all the funny stories between buddies. Her eyes were bright. She asked how we bathed in winter, whether there was enough food in the mess. Every little detail, like she wanted to make up for every day of the 3 years she'd missed. The next morning, I was woken by the sound of my mother watering the flowers. Sunlight streamed through the old wooden window lattice, falling on my blanket. When I'd washed up, she had millet porridge ready, with pickled radish and scallion fried eggs. I was drinking my porridge when my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I answered. A tired male voice. Mr. Lin Jing. This is Reginald. What is it? ISA left for Qinghe village this morning. I've sent someone to keep an eye on her from a distance. Just for safety. Good. Mr. Lin, can we keep this out of the news? The company's stock price. I wasn't planning to talk about it. You keep your people in line, and I'll keep mine. If something like this happens again, it won't be so easy. Reginald agreed profusely. Before hanging up, he asked, after 6 months, it depends on her. If she learns her lesson, we'll forget about it. If not, I'll come back to you. There was a long silence. Finally, he said in a low voice, Thank you. My mother poked her head out of the kitchen. Who was that? Work stuff. Ma, I'm going to the town after breakfast. To buy something? To check on that young lady. Can't let her starve in our village. My mother paused, then smiled. That smile carried a gentle knowingness, like she'd been expecting me to say that. She went back to the kitchen and brought me another bowl of porridge. Drink up. Don't go out on an empty stomach. That bowl of porridge warmed me all the way from my throat to my stomach. The days flowed like the water in the Qinghe River in front of our yard, slow and unhurried. Every day, I found myself walking past Qinghe Village Road. Intentionally or not, I couldn't quite say why. Maybe I just wanted to make sure that young lady hadn't managed to kill herself. I always walked quickly, eyes straight ahead, but out of the corner of my eye, I'd catch a glimpse of a floral print fabric under the old locust tree or at the village shop. Isolde was staying in an empty old house at the eastern edge of the village. The yard had a hand-pumped well, and the stove was built from clay. When I'd laid out the conditions, I only wanted her to suffer. But seeing her living in those conditions, every now and then, a strange feeling flickered through me. That afternoon, I finished my errands and was walking back. I didn't see her at the village entrance. I didn't stop. 50 meters out, a voice called from behind. Lin Jing. I turned around. Isolde was running toward me along the dirt road. A faded gray t-shirt with washed-out jeans, cloth shoes caked with mud, a smear of dirt on her face. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, stray strands plastered to her temples with sweat. But her eyes were brighter than they'd been 2 weeks ago, bright enough to burn. She stopped in front of me, hands on her knees, catching her breath. Then she pulled something from her pants pocket and held it out. A handful of wild scallions, roots still caked with fresh soil. Your mother said last time she liked scrambled eggs with wild scallions. I saw these on the back slope today and pulled them up. Can you take them back to her? I looked down at the scallions. Dew was still on the leaves. The dirt on the roots was a dark brown. She must have just picked them. Hadn't even brushed off the mud before running over. I took them, holding them in my hand, not knowing what to say. Isolde saw me take them and let out a long breath. Like a weight had been lifted. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and stepped back half a pace. Then she suddenly smiled. That smile was completely different from the perfunctory, condescending smile back at the hotel. This one was clumsy, shy, and carried something I couldn't name. Why do you walk this road every day? I have business in town. Everyone else takes the main road. You only take the dirt road past our village. Are you afraid I'll starve to death here? I met her eyes. If you gave away the scallions, what are you gonna eat? I have 2 potatoes in the house. Enough for tonight. I'll go to the market tomorrow and buy more. Her tone was much steadier than a month ago. The old arrogance and entitlement were gone, replaced by a grounded certainty. Do you know how to shop at the market? Learning. I went with Mrs. Wang next door the other day. She taught me to pick tomatoes that are firm. Not soft ones don't keep. I'm a fast learner. She lifted her face to look at me. The afternoon sun filtered through the locust tree leaves, dappling her face with light and shadow, without any makeup, without highlighter or contour. She looked more beautiful than she had at the hotel. I looked away and tightened my grip on the scallions. All right, I'll take them to my mom. I'm going. As I turned, I could feel her eyes on my back. I quickened my pace and didn't slow down until I'd rounded the corner. I looked down at the soil clinging to the scallion leaves against my thumb. Cold, with that raw, earthy smell from the plant's roots. That night, my mother scrambled eggs with those scallions. As she ate, she praised them. These scallions are so fresh. Better than the ones we grow. Where'd you get them? Shaozheng? I stuffed a mouthful of rice and mumbled. Picked them by the roadside. My mother gave me a look but didn't press. Still, I felt like that look held something she wasn't saying. A few days later, Grimes's case was decided, with the full weight of the prosecution and the complete surveillance evidence. She confessed to everything. Multiple charges. Sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Reginald called to thank me for not letting things blow up. I listened, then hung up. Grimes was in her 30s. The rest of her life would be spent behind high walls. That shove she gave my mother, she thought she was just brushing off an old country lady with a casual wave. Instead, she erased her own future. I didn't feel sorry for her. She pushed my mother. Whatever consequences came, she deserved them. But standing there in front of that verdict, what rose up wasn't satisfaction. It was something heavier. Power, used well, can protect. Used wrong, it destroys. If Isolde had laid a hand on my mother that day, she'd be locked up too. And there'd be more than just Grimes in a cell. Maybe that's why Reginald was willing to send his daughter to the countryside without a fight. That night, I sat alone in the yard drinking tea. The locust tree was covered in blossoms. When the night breeze blew, tiny petals swirled down, drifting into my cup. I fished out a petal and held it in my palm for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from an unfamiliar number. No name, but I could guess who it was. The steamed sweet potato your mother gave me today was delicious. Can you tell her thank you? I stared at the words. The corner of my mouth lifted involuntarily. The stars that night were especially bright. A little over a month after my mother's birthday, summer truly arrived. The locust blossoms were at their peak, soaking the whole village lane in their fragrance. I was in the yard fixing an old bamboo chair for my mom when there was a knock at the gate. Mrs. Chen, are you home? It was Isolde's voice. I paused. My mother stuck her head out of the kitchen. I'm here. Come in. The gate creaked open. Isolde squeezed in, carrying an enamel basin covered with a blue checkered cloth. A few corn husks poked out from under it. She wore a white cotton shirt and a dark blue knee-length skirt. Still cloth shoes, but her hair was neatly combed, braided into a single plait hanging over her shoulder. She was like a different person from a month ago. The polished shell built by luxury had vanished. In its place was a clean, fresh, lived-in look. Her cheeks were rounder. Her skin had tanned to a healthy wheat color, a light spray of freckles across her nose. Her eyes crinkled into crescent moons when she smiled. When she came into the yard and saw me, she hesitated. Her ears turned a light pink. Li Linjing, you're here too. What's up? Bringing Mrs. Chen some corn. I helped Mrs. Wang harvest this morning. She insisted I take a basin. I can't eat it all myself. My mother came out of the kitchen. When she saw the corn, her face crinkled into a smile. You went and helped someone else. And you're already tired. Mrs. Chen, don't refuse. Mrs. Wang shoved it at me. The corn was picked this morning. I boiled it with a little salt. It's really sweet. My mother laughed. Broke off an ear. Took a bite. Nodded approvingly. And handed one to me. I took a bite. The kernels were plump and juicy, with that fresh, clean flavor unique to newly harvested crops. As I chewed, Isolde stole a glance at me. When she caught my eye, she quickly looked away, her ears turning a deeper pink. My mother watched all this with a knowing smile. Saying nothing, she turned and went back inside to get a plate. The yard was left to me and Isolde. She stood in the shade of the locust tree, twisting her hands together, tapping the tip of one cloth shoe against the cracks in the brick. You've gotten darker. Isolde's head shot up. Ah, that dark? When I looked in the mirror this morning, I thought, it's okay, better than before. I didn't even realize I'd spoken aloud until the words were out. Isolde froze, like someone had pressed a pause button. Then the pink spread from her ears to her cheeks, even down her neck. You mean that? Her reaction threw me off. I looked away and grabbed another ear of corn. Just stating a fact. Isolde didn't say anything. After a while, she walked over and sat down on the stone bench across from me, resting her chin in her hands, watching me. Lin Jing, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. When you sent me to the countryside, did you do it just to watch me make a fool of myself? I paused in the middle of shucking the corn. After a few seconds of thought, I answered, no. Then why? I wanted you to understand something. That day at the hotel, your attitude, and your assistant's attitude toward my mom, it came from never once putting yourself in someone else's shoes. You thought the world revolved around you, that anything you asked for, you could have, that ordinary people deserved to be trampled. You've been living in that house without air conditioning, pumping your own water, lighting your own fire, haggling at the market. Do you think you've changed? Isolde was silent for a long time, staring at the mud on the toes of her cloth shoes. Then she looked up. Her eyes were a little red. I have changed. The morning after you sent me here, the rooster crowed and I woke up. I'd never woken up that early in my life. I sat on the bed and cried for half an hour. I wanted to call my dad and have him come pick me up, but I didn't. Why not? Because the way you looked at me. It was like you were looking at a child who didn't know any better. I didn't want you to keep looking at me like that. The yard went quiet for a few seconds. The wind shook a few more locust blossoms free, landing on the stone table. Isolde gathered the petals in her palm and gave me a small smile. Lin Jing, I'm gonna live these 6 months well. When I go back, I'm gonna be a different person. I want you to see something else in your eyes when you look at me. I didn't answer, but my mouth twitched. My mother came out with a plate of cut watermelon. When she saw us sitting face to face, she let out a playful ooh. Here, have some watermelon. I say, you have a piece. This melon is sweet. Isolde stood up, took a slice, and bit into it. Her eyes lit up as she looked at my mother. Mrs. Chen, you can call me Isa from now on. That's what my family calls me. My mother nodded with a smile, then turned to me. Xiao Cheng, don't be so stone-faced. The girl brought you corn. You can at least say thank you. I looked at Isolde. She was biting into the watermelon, watching me, a little red juice at the corner of her mouth. Those eyes that had once been full of arrogance were now only clean, soft, and holding a hint of cautious hope. Thanks. Isolde grinned at me, still holding the watermelon in her mouth. That smile, clumsy and alive, touched me more than any diamond's sparkle. That afternoon, she sat in the yard with my mother for over 3 hours, talking about everything from how to pick corn to how to pickle vegetables. From market days to whose cat had just birthed a litter of spotted kittens. She kept my mother laughing the whole time. When she left, my mother stuffed a jar of her homemade sweetened garlic into her hands. Isolde clutched the jar and paused at the gate, looking back at me. The setting sun stretched her long shadow across the brick path. Lin Jing, tomorrow I'm helping Mrs. Wang pick beans. If you're passing by, come see me. She said it softly, but every word carried a certainty completely different from a month ago. That certainty didn't come from her family background or her money. It came from the calm of a girl standing there in cloth shoes, hair tousled by the wind, smiling more genuinely than she ever had before. I looked at her and nodded. She turned and walked away. Her braids swayed in the sunset, swinging back and forth until she disappeared around the corner. I stood at the gate for a long time. My mother came up behind me and draped a thin jacket over my shoulders. Her voice was full of barely contained laughter. Xiao Cheng, Ma thinks she's pretty good. I didn't say anything, but I pulled the jacket tighter around myself. The summer evening breeze still carried the warmth of the day, soft against my skin. In the distance, the rice paddies rolled in golden green waves under the setting sun. The shadow of the old locust tree at the village entrance spread across half the road. Smoke from cooking fires rose slowly from every rooftop. This summer was going to be a long one, and it was getting longer still.